As I said, later we'll see how this works out, how we get the inverse of a matrix. Let's now look at what we do if we want to solve this system. Okay? And this system, 3x plus 5y equals 9, 2x minus 4y equals negative 6, can be solved by simply adding multiples of rows to rows. So what we're going to do first is we're going to double the first row to get the first matrix to get 6x plus 10y equals 9. We can see that doubling these numbers gives us these numbers. We're going to multiply the second matrix by negative 3, giving us, I call this a matrix, second equation we're going to multiply by negative 3, and that's going to give us this equation. You can check that out. Now the reason we did that is we wanted to match up the coefficients of x. Okay, so we see that since we've got 3 and 2 for the coefficients, if we multiply this one by 2 and this one by 3, we'd have the same coefficients. It ends up that we multiply this one by negative 3 so that we have the negative of this coefficient so that we can simply add the two equations. Now, when we add the two equations, we get 22y here and we get 36 here. Divide both sides by 36, we see that y is 18/11. If we take that 18/11 and substitute it back into either equation, we'll get something we can solve for x, and we're familiar with this process, of course. Okay, this is what we normally do, or this is one way to solve the equation. Now, what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to be a little more formal about it. I'm going to take, okay, this is the system, and this is an equivalent system, because all I've done is I've multiplied the two equations in this system by non-zero numbers. And multiplying an equation by a non-zero number gives you a completely equivalent equation. Since that's what we've done with both equations, we have a completely equivalent system here. Now this system then gives us this system. 6x plus 10y equals 18, 22y equals 36. Remember that 22y equals 36 is what we got when we added the two equations in this system. Now again, adding two equations in a system gives us an equation that's equivalent to the one that we want to replace with the sum. Now, we're going to replace the second equation with what we get by adding the first and second equation. That is, we think of adding the first equation to the second in order to get this new second equation. Okay, now we have these two equations. We're going to divide the second equation by 22 and reduce to get y equals 18/11. So now our system of equations is like this. Notice at each step we're writing down both equations. We wrote them both down here, we write them both down here, we had them both here, and we got them both here. So we always write down the entire system. Now let's see where we are. Okay, here's the system we just wrote down in the upper left-hand corner of the picture. Okay, and that system is 6x plus 10y equals 18, y equals 18/11. Now, if I add negative 10 times the second equation to the first, what do I get? Well, negative 10 times y is negative 10y, so when I add it to 10y, the y is going to be eliminated. Negative 10 times 18/11 is 180/11. 18 is 198/11. If I add a negative 180/11 to 18, which is 198/11, I get 18/11 coincidentally. So this comes from just adding negative 10 times this to this, giving me the equation 6x equals 18/11, y equals 18/11. Now I note over here that what I've done is I've taken the first equation and subtracted 10 times the second. And that's what I now have as my first equation. I've replaced the first equation by what I get when I add negative 10 times the second to the first. I chose the negative 10 times the second because that's what I need to eliminate my 10y. Okay, now the first equation divided by the second. That's not what we have at all. We have the first equation divided by 6. Excuse me a second. Let me get some. white out here and fix that. Okay, first equation divided by 6. And we'll white out the D there. Clean up that 6 just a little bit. Okay. If we divide the first equation by 6, then our 6x equals 18/11 becomes x equals 3/11. And here's our solution. Okay? And just a close-up on how we got this equation. First equation minus 10 times a second, the step that we used to get this. Here's our first. Here's negative 10 times a second. And we add these up, we get 6x, the y's cancel. We end up with 18/11 here.